and I hope that things are going well for you. I want to encourage you, if things are going well, to rejoice in that. But I also want to encourage you that if things aren't going well, then just understand that there are a lot of believers, a lot of folks who are faithful, who go through difficult times. And it's because we live in a sinful world. That we have an incredibly uh, determined enemy in Satan himself, and he understands often what it takes to discourage us, to distract us, to erode our desire, our determination. He knows all those things. And so it's important for us as believers to continually to pursue after, to seek after, to rest in the Lord. If we're not careful, our walk of faith, our Christianity, if you will, it becomes things that are almost meaningless in the sense that we do things out of rote. We go to church, or we go to a small group or something. But if we're not careful, we don't ever engage at the heart level. And so it's important that when we are struggling and when we're not struggling, that we engage at the heart level, because it's at the heart. It's in the what goes on internally, not just simply reciting something, but pausing to consider to whom you're speaking, and pausing to consider who that person is, in God our Father. All those things are important. Peter, in First Peter, we'll be looking this Sunday in our small groups. Peter speaks to Christians. It's later in the first century. Persecution has dispersed them from the security of Jerusalem and in Israel. They are dispersed now. He talks about those who are aliens and they're scattered, um, but he says they're chosen. And what he's pointing to is that they are not home yet because they're aliens, and they're scattered. They're not wanted. They're persecuted because of who they are, but they're chosen. That God in heaven has already determined that He wants them, that they are His. The word chosen is the word electos, and it means that God has elected them. He has elected them to be His. It was an action born in His heart and not based on a decision we've made. The Bible's very clear that life can be challenging. One of our mistakes as believers is that we believe once we become Christians that somehow or another life is going to be easier. Often, life will become more challenging. And it is now because in declaring our faith and our belief in Jesus Christ, declaring that we're sinners and asking God to change us, we're literally placing ourselves in the midst of a situation now that because our identity has been changed, we are opposed most vehemently by Satan himself. God despises the devil. And because, I mean, God, the devil despises God, and because we belong to God, the devil despises us. And so often life is going to be difficult. Life is also difficult, not simply because we have an enemy, but because we face hard choices sometimes. We battle with the flesh. I don't know, I joke about it, but we all know how hard it is sometimes perhaps to make the decision to eat the right foods. You got a choice of eating a salad, or having a nice piece of chocolate cake, or a bowl of chocolate ice cream or something. And we all know that the flesh yearns for the things that the flesh yearns for. Fairly seldom does the flesh yearn for the things that the heart yearns for. And the flesh can be so overpowering. Uh, God's word warns us about the lust of the eyes, and what we see. All those things are very powerful, and so it's difficult to live this life as a Christian because we have this enemy, because we have this flesh. And even though we're saved, we battle with temptations. Um, it's an amazing thing, but one of the things that we as Christians sometimes struggle with is admitting that we have temptations. But we do. The devil tempted Jesus. It's not a sin to be tempted. The sin comes when we yield to that temptation, and often the temptation is something that it is exactly opposite from what God's word says, and it's more about serving self and satisfying self than it is to live sacrificially and to live with God in the center of our will, in the center of God's will, but more that we're in the center of our will. And so we battle these things. I want to encourage you. As a pastor and as a believer, I believe